Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Inspire FM. It's Friday, 12th of September, and the time has now just gone 10 o'clock. Welcome to Mother's Planet, a show where there is always something to talk about in a productive and beneficial way. I am your host, Neelum. And how has the week been, listeners? It's been a fast week, I think. I'm not alone this morning on my show. I have my guest. Zahida, who will be joining me shortly on the show. Inshallah, she'll be connecting to the show very soon. And here she is. Salam alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum salam. Alhamdulillah, I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
No, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining me on this rather cold Friday morning. I think we're beginning to feel winter. I say it. I don't know about yourself, but I was a bit tempted to put the heating on. I resisted. I just layered up. But have you turned the heating on yet?
I'm doing the same thing, I'm resisting it, but I am definitely layered up today.
Yes, it's quite difficult. So, Zahida, how has the week been for yourself?
Alhamdulillah, it's been really good, very busy, but I'm really glad it's Friday today.
Yeah. Did you feel like the week went very fast?
I think it did, but I think I could do with another day to do all the things I need to do, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
inshallah, we'll get there.
It's never enough time, is it? No. So, listeners, we are live on air, reaching out through the airwaves at Inspire FM 105.1 FM. You can also connect to the show via TuneIn through the Inspire FM webpage. We are also streaming live on the Facebook page, where you must give the show a thumbs up and also can comment or ask any questions around today's topic. As always, I am taking in WhatsApp and text messages on the studio number 07779 481 822. So today, the show will be focusing on a Muslim charity called the Safeena Muslim Cancer Support Network. And this is for those that are suffering from cancer or have loved ones that are suffering from cancer. Now, I will go into this in a little bit more detail, but first, Zahida, can I get you to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Thank you. So I'm one of the trustees and founding member of Safeena Muslim Cancer Support Network, which is UK's first nationwide network that provides services to Muslims impacted by cancer. And although our services are specifically set up for Muslims, because that's where we identified a need, our services are in fact open to everybody, Muslims, non-Muslims, faith, no faith.
Okay, thank you. And you briefly touched on your role within the Safina Muslim Cancer Support. So you are one of the trustees. So how long have you been with the charity?
So we launched 2 Ramadans ago, so we're about 2.5 years old. And of course, I've been with the network itself from the preparatory stages right at the beginning.
Wow.
So
Okay.
in total, I would say about 3.5 years. And my areas of responsibilities are the bereavement and palliative support and befriending support service. Although we also focus on health inequalities and education and awareness, but that's done by my fellow trustee colleagues.
Okay. Wow. So you've been there from the very beginning. So you've seen the network and support network grow, which is probably quite a nice position to be in as well. To see it start from an idea to actually where it is today. So can you tell me a little bit, and to the listeners, a little bit about the founding story of the charity? So how it started and why.
Okay, so the story behind Safina is that our chair of the network, Safraz, his mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and within 4 months of that diagnosis, sadly, she returned back to our Lord. And his experience and the experience of his family was that although there was some great work being done by nationwide cancer charities, there was nothing specifically out there for Muslims who are impacted by cancer. Um, in fact, I think at the time he Googled it, and the only support network for Muslims was in Canada, so there was nothing in UK. And that essentially led him to think about, putting something together that so that people who are in a similar position in the same similar boat don't have to suffer this journey on their own. And I was also diagnosed with cancer 13 years ago, so I had my own personal diagnosis. And a group of us eventually came together, and we were collectively joined by the fact that we had all experienced impacted by cancer in one way or another, and our own experiences were that there was nothing specifically out there for Muslims. We then went out and did some research amongst the Muslim community, and our survey showed that 94% of people felt that there should be something set up that was specifically for Muslims impacted by cancer. And in fact, 80% of the people that we had surveyed said that no other organisation resonated with their cultural and faith-based needs. And that essentially led us to set up a network to provide support to
Mm,
Muslims impacted by cancer through education, befriending, and signposting,
mm.
which will be underpinned by our faith and our culture.
Wow. So, what a journey. And, to have had personal experience going through cancer yourself. And then I totally agree with you. We've had family members that have had cancer. Some are with us today and some we've lost. But yeah, there wasn't anything out there to support. I'm intrigued by the name. Safina Muslim Cancer Support. So, where did the name? How did you come up with the name?
So Safina is essentially the legacy behind our charity, and it was Safraza's mother who sadly
Okay,
passed away.
okay.
And Safina really translates into it means boat,
Mm,
and that's where our tagline comes in. That we are helping those in the we're helping those in the same boat, but we recognise that with cancer, although we may be in the same boat, we're just weathering the storm differently, and that's
yeah,
what we're where we are there to help people
yeah,
to weather that storm.
yeah. I saw the you shared that with me, and I read that, and I thought that's so spot on how it's said that yes, ultimately the everyone that's suffering with cancer is in the same boat, but how they're journeying it and going through it is very different. So yes, and Safina has many terms and definitions from an Islamic perspective. So yeah, it's quite a well thought out name, and as you said, it's a legacy. It's a name that's living on for one of the trustees. Others. So, how I came about understanding and knowing the Safina Muslim Cancer Support was actually through Ramadan this year, where I was gifted many date tins, and it was amazing. The pictures on the date tins, the patterns on the date tins, and I think particularly there was one that everyone was trying to get their holds on, where it was Masjid al-Aqsa, and it was Palestine, all around Palestine, and I was lucky enough to have been gifted that tin as well. So I think I have the variety, and I'm a bit disappointed with myself because I had set them aside. I actually had a stash that I wanted to just share with you on the show because that's where I learned about Safina cancer support, and I was intrigued to know how it started. So, tell me a little bit about the initiative around the date tins. How long that's been running for? Because I'm sure it's been on there before, but it was only this year I noticed it, and particularly because of the mosques and the patterns and the colours, and then you've specifically stated when by buying this tin you're donating money to this specific country in need as well. So tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So the Date Project is one of our partner organisations, and it's been in operation for over 10 years. And the concept behind it is very similar, that every year date tins will be sold and 100% of the profits will go to various charitable causes. For example, Palestine Water Project, Syria Bread Project, the Orphan Project, Rohingya, Yemen, and so forth. And last year we introduced another tin, which was going to be called the Safina and UK causes. So 100% of the profits from that tin would go to support the services that Safeena Muslim Cancer Support Network provides, but also to some local UK causes, because although there's deprivation and need abroad, so many of our brothers and sisters in this country are suffering, whether it's because of cancer or whether it's because of poverty. And the charity behind the Date Project, One Nation, recognise that and want to do more to help projects at home as well. And
Mm.
hopefully, inshallah, through the Date Project, we are doing this locally as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, the booklets, the activity booklets, is that something that's all sponsored by yourselves as well? So that's all created by yourselves?
That's all sponsored by the Date Project and One Nation.
Okay, wow. Okay. So, where did the idea of, the images, who was it? Was it somebody, did you have somebody in your team that thought up how to create it? Where did the art come from?
It comes from various sources. There's a design team that we have. We also, for example, last year we put a competition out
Oh,
to people to put together designs, and those designs were selected and they were introduced on the tins. And I think something similar is going to be done this year as well. Some of
okay.
the tins have been designed by artists. So there's been various inspirations behind those designs, and a lot of thought process goes behind those. And I
Mm,
believe that that work is currently ongoing at the moment
yeah.
in readiness for the Date Project next year, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. And I wish you the very best with that, because, I think that uh, it was a really good reach. It was something that caught my eye, and I read on the tin a bit more about the charity and what you're doing, and I was intrigued, and hence you're here today, because, I did think that actually this is something that I'm not sure if people, we often in Ramadan get given these gifts and, a bit oblivious to what's actually going on in the tin. We're just interested in the dates. And so I'm not sure people were, reading the messages around it. So I really wanted to just bring you on to discuss this in detail. So we've heard about the founding story behind the charity, and obviously the date tins and things like that. Listeners, if you have just tuned in this morning, I have Zahida from the Safeena Muslim Support Charity Network on the show with me this morning, and we are discussing a bit more about the charity that is supporting Muslims with cancer, or those that have loved ones suffering with cancer as well. If you have any questions to my guest this morning, or would like to share your own story, please do message into the studio number 07779 481 822. Okay, so what was it that, I mean, I know that one of the trustees had a personal journey where he looked out for support for himself and his mum, and he was unable to find anything. But what was it within the Muslim community or the wider community the gap that you saw, and that you thought, right, we need to address? Because when there's nothing that exists in a community, it's a very difficult starting point, because you want to address so many needs. So how did you narrow it down to say, initially, this is going to be our specific need that we're going to try and do for the wider Muslim community?
Yeah. So before we even began on this journey, we did a lot of research, and as I mentioned earlier, we did a survey where we surveyed over 400 Muslim people impacted by cancer, and we looked at what was out there already, because we weren't not our idea was not to replace any organisation, but to complement and coexist alongside other nationwide services. And it was really important to us to understand what the gap is. And if
Mm.
I could just share an anecdote with you, we met a revert sister who had a daughter who had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And she was being seen by mainstream charities and counsellors, and they kept providing her support. And at one point, they said to her that, look, how are you coping with the fact that your daughter is going to be dying soon? And she said to them that, if Allah wills, Allah can change the qadr and she may live a long, healthy life. And they put in her notes that this lady is in serious denial and needs, she needs mental health intervention because she's not accepting her diagnosis. And a year
Wow.
later, when her daughter passed away, and she came to us and she said, I was never in denial. But that was my faith that was guiding me and holding me through that. But the mainstream services just did not understand that. Whereas when I came to Safeena, when I said this to you, you got it straight away. And that's exactly what was missing in the mainstream services, the lack of understanding of our faith and what our faith says about illness and also our culture. There is a massive taboo of cancer within our community. We do not talk about it.
Yeah.
Although I'm at your radio station today talking about it, it took me effectively 5 years to come out and start speaking about it. That's how deeply rooted that taboo of cancer is. And that's
Mm.
what we wanted to address in the services that we provided at the support
Mm.
network.
Yeah, I know. I think it's not talked about enough. It's a very sensitive topic, and I think many Muslims, or people in our community, struggle to talk about it because um, I don't know. Some people find it as a coping mechanism as well. I just need to deal with this on my own. But obviously, once they've opened up and discussed this, I'm curious to know because obviously when any support charity is running with the term Muslim associated to it, everyone says, well, how do we know it's Muslim and it's not cultural? There's a big definition. So how do you keep the support and advice that you offer to your patients in line with the Islamic values, and how do you follow that?
Yeah, so our services provided for Muslims by Muslims. All our volunteers are Muslims. They've been trained in the
Mhm.
Islamic aspect of the faith as well. So it's not just a given that because they're Muslims they will know how to provide that service and be guided by Islamic values. We also have a board of scholars that we've set up, which consists of 5 male scholars and 5 female scholars. And it was really important for us to have the female scholars on board as well to provide that diverse background as well. And everything that we do is all the Islamic aspects of the guidance, resources that we provide. It's been written by our scholars and it's been verified by them. And even, for example, if it's something that's not specifically related to Islam, for example, we're in the process of putting together a cookery book, even that will be Q&A'd by our scholars. And we've got various resources, for example, on our website. One of them is written by Dr. Atha called the Book on Hope and Sabr and lots of du'as. And all of these resources are available for free. You can download them on our website or contact us and we can send them to people in the post for free. Essentially, our vision is to provide a faith-based support service bringing hope, care, and compassion into people's life, which is rooted on our Islam and on our culture as well. So
Mm.
it's really important that we do, and everything we do is underpinned by that.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Zahida, I don't know if you've got some papers or anything near your mic. There's just a bit of ruffling sound, so we're just getting that coming through from the studio. So just if you could just put your speakers or anything near your speaker, just keep that away, just so that we don't hear that ruffling sound because it's coming through onto the airwaves. So just so that you could be heard clearly. Yes, and I guess that's really important, and I like the fact that you emphasised on ensuring that you had the female scholars on board as well, and not just the male scholars, because obviously both genders go through this, but understanding it from a female perspective with the compassion only a female would be able to understand. So having that female scholar there on board would allow that. So I forgot to ask you, which was a question that I had mentioned. Safeena Society is nationwide, or have you got a hub only based at a certain point of the time? Where are you
Uh,
based?
so we are a nationwide service,
Yeah,
and it's really important for us that we cover everybody in the whole of
yeah,
UK
yeah,
who's impacted by cancer.
yeah. Okay, so it's accessible nationwide, and so looking at your services and support, you did touch on this earlier about the types of support that you do offer. But for anyone that missed that part, what type of specific supports? Because I know I asked the question earlier that not having a Muslim support charity for cancer out there, it's really hard to say what's the first avenue that we're going to go. And obviously, as time progresses, you're going to understand more and more needs of the community and cater for that. So, what are the typical types of support services that you provide for cancer patients and for the families?
Yeah. So, my own personal experience is that, Alhamdulillah, I'm blessed with a really good family support network and friendship network. But despite that, the cancer, when I got diagnosed with cancer, is probably one of the most scariest and loneliest times in my journey. And despite having that network, I felt really alone in that journey. And it was really important for us that we are there for people when they're going through that journey and they're not alone. So for that reason, we've set up a befriending support service. Now, this service is provided by our volunteers who've been fully trained and have all had experience or have been impacted by cancer. And this service is provided to people who've either been diagnosed with cancer, but also to carers who sometimes are the hidden voices in the cancer journey. And they've got lived experience of that cancer, so they can provide them with, shared experience, practical support, a listening ear. And for some reason, when you speak to somebody who gets it because
Yeah,
they've been through that journey, it's so powerful. And I know that when I was diagnosed with cancer, I used that service and it really empowered me in my journey. It made me feel that, if that person could do it, I too could do it. And it just gives you that hope. And the difference between that service and our service is that obviously we're underpinned by our faith and our culture, and we have that understanding as well. So when somebody says to us, I can't tell other people about this because I'm worried about what they're going to say, we get that,
yeah,
and we can share that. It's very, some ways it can be very inspiring to know that somebody got diagnosed with cancer and 13 years ago and they're
yeah,
still here. If they can do it, I can do it as well.
yeah.
And that service is provided to both patients and to their carers as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you personally yourself offer any, as a trustee, are you counselling any patients? Do you go out and visit any patients?
Yeah, we all hit the ground together on this, whether
Okay.
it's our trustees, non-executive directors, or our volunteers. I personally have, I think, about 6 clients of my own that I am supporting as well. Um, and I think it's really important because, it. I feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us through this. I went through a diagnosis because of a particular reason, and that was to go out there and support people and help people through that journey so that where I was feeling scared and alone, nobody goes through that. And I think
Yeah.
that's the reason why all our volunteers, we've got over 88 trained befrienders, and essentially that they probably joined Safina for that very reason. They want to
Mm.
be able to give that, they want to bring that hope, compassion into the lives of other people that are impacted by cancer, inshallah.
Inshallah. And that's amazing to hear that you have that many volunteers across nationwide. So, Zahida, just to touch on your own experience, going back 13 years, it was a long time ago. Things were very different 13 years ago. But having had the experience that you had, do you think now, as a support member of this charity, do you feel um, if you had this support, how's your journey educated you to try and make sure somebody going through this is having a better experience?
I mean, there's so many things that I've learned through this journey. I mean, when I got diagnosed with cancer, somebody said to me, seek forgiveness from Allah. You've obviously, committed some
Oh,
mistakes or
wow.
done some sins, and that's why you've been diagnosed. And then as I've sort of gone through my journey and I've got involved with the setting up the Scholars Board and listening to them and reading their articles, and you realize actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, given you this blessing where your minor sins are falling through this illness. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of, there's a lot of Islam behind it.
Mm.
And had I had been provided through that at that time, it would have really supported my journey. It would have really empowered me to go through that journey. I mean, I still went through it, but it was
Yeah.
probably more difficult, more challenging. And had I had that support and that information and that resources, which was targeted to people impacted by cancer, I think my
Mm.
journey would have been totally different. And that's probably one of the reasons why every single one of us that's involved in setting up Safina is so passionate about this. We do this. This is not our full-time jobs. We are employees working elsewhere. We do this all in our voluntary capacity, but because we find time to do it because we have all been impacted by it and we know how it feels and we want to make that different for other people that are going through it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've just been told that we have got just under 40 seconds now, believe it or not, before we head over to a break. So listeners, I have the lovely Zahida with me this morning. We are talking about the Muslim cancer charity. We are going over to a short break now. If you have any questions, drop it on the studio number 07779 481 822. But for now, go refill your brew or cold drink or drink. I'm hoping it's hot drink, whatever you're having with us this morning, and join us after a short commercial break, inshallah. And I think we're going to head over to a break, and I don't know how this works. This is all new for me.
How is it? You're doing really well, though.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Brother Bona Muhammad, and you are listening to Inspire FM. Yeah.
Oh, I'm really struggling to find a rishta for my son. It's so difficult.
Have you looked into Rishta Networking? It's a halal atmosphere where you can find the right spouse for your child. Alhamdulillah, I found a Rishta for my daughter through one of their events.
Wow, alhamdulillah. How does it work exactly?
You have brief timed introductions, about 5 minutes long, where you get to talk to different candidates and see if they are a perfect match.
Sounds great. How can I book?
You'll have to be quick, sis. Spaces are limited, and the next event's on the 26th of September at Crescent Hall. You can book your spot at rishta-networking.co.uk.
This is exactly what we need. In the community, finding a rishta has become such a struggle. I'll book my spot straight away.
The perfect venue for your perfect day has to be the Barn Tea Green at Stony Lane, where natural beauty blends with rustic charm. With the stunning barn conversion, breathtaking garden room, private bridal suite, and landscape gardens set within the picturesque Hertfordshire countryside, this unique and charming venue's ideal for intimate nikahs, mendis, weddings, other celebrations, or business events for up to 200 guests with ample parking. For details, call 01582 800 222. Visit thebarnteagreen.co.uk or check out our Instagram at thebarnteagreen.
Enjoy quality and tasty 100% authentic halal Chinese and Thai food from Gao Express. Brought to you by the team behind Top's Pizza in Luton. Choose from all your delicious Chinese and Thai favourites. Then order for delivery or collection from Gao Express in Wellington Street, Luton, Marketplace, Stevenage, and now also on Nightingale Road in Hitchin. Open daily midday till late. Find the number or order online at Gao, that's GAO, express.co.uk, or like Gao Express on Facebook.
Had an accident, a bump, trip or fall? Then you need Claims Specialists, your first choice for accident claims. The Specialist Claims Company on Dunstable Road in Luton. With excellent access to expert solicitors and on a no-win, no-fee basis, Claims Specialists use their 30 years experience to help get you the best compensation possible. For injuries at work, taxi, PCO and private hire incidents, road accidents and vehicle damage, medical negligence, plus rented housing disrepair. In short, when you need to make any claim, click on claimspecialists.co.uk or call 01582 733 222.
For specialist immigration services, the people to talk to settle a family member in the UK, M&K Solicitors. For all your legal solutions for family, personal injury, clinical negligence, civil and property law, M&K Solicitors. Internationally recognised, M&K Solicitors for local legal services you can rely on. Call 01582 732 503 or click on mnksolicitors.com. Your first consultation is free.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मेरा नाम किरण है। कोट कश्मीर ऑर्फन रिलीफ ट्रस्ट मेरा एक खूबसूरत घर है जहां मेरे साथ सैकड़ों यतीम और बेसहारा बच्चों की तालीम व तरबियत और पुरसुकून माहौल में परवरिश हो रही है और ये सब कुछ आपके तावन से मुमकिन है। अल्लाह से दुआ है कि अल्लाह करीम आपको सदा सलामत रखे और उम्मीद है कि आप इसी तरह अपना प्यार, मोहब्बत और तावन जारी रखेंगे। कोट UK ऑफिस 0300123774 court.org.uk।
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Good morning and assalamu alaikum. It's Friday, 12th of September, and the time has now just gone 10:30. Welcome back to Mother's Planet. I am your host, Neelum, and joining me on the show this morning is my guest, Zahida. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
So this morning, Zahida and I have had quite an in-depth discussion about the Safeena Muslim Cancer Support Charity, talking about how the founding story of the charity, the name of the charity, and also I'm sure many listeners are aware of the date tins that went out this Ramadan, where Safeena Muslim Cancer Support was promoting their services on the tins, but also the lovely images and patterns and mosques that were being printed on the tins. So listeners, if again you have any questions around today's topic or you want to share your own personal journey, please do message in on 07779 481 822. Now, sorry Zahida, we were cut off in the break where we were talking about your own personal journey and making sure that now when you support the patients and families that you are seeing, you're coming in with a really a different attitude. I guess the question that I really wanted to ask here is, you touched on it briefly around the taboo around cancer, and especially in the South Asian community, it's not something. When somebody goes through it, family members like to keep very hush-hush about it. And, it was very sad to hear that 13 years ago, somebody said what they said to you about, cancer being a form of punishment. That brought goosebumps to me. And it's horrific, but these things actually happen. And these things are thoughts that people have. And as you said, that the work that your team carries out is guided by Islamic scholars and everything. How do you balance the cultural view and religious view when it comes to matters like this? Because sometimes people, we're very strong-minded people. We can just say, no, I know that this is this, and you're coming in from an Islamic perspective to try and make their view things differently. How do you balance that?
So we do, there's a number of things that we do. For example, we work closely with the British Islamic Medical Association, and we've also reached out to hospices, and we also work very closely with Macmillan as well. And two of our non-executive directors are also doctors. One's an oncologist. And the reason why I mention all of this is because there are specific nuances about our culture and our faith. For example, in the healthcare, particularly if it's an area of cancer which involves a private part of the body, we don't like to be seen by a member of the opposite gender, and that's not always necessarily guaranteed, but there are ways around it and things that you can do. And for us, it's about ensuring that we have effective partnerships set up with the healthcare providers so that we can educate them, because this is not just about providing the support to people impacted by cancer, but also educating other people that may not be familiar with our faith, for example, or our culture, and making them aware about those things, so educating them. So at Safeena's, we think our role is beyond that, when it goes to accessing that health gap that currently exists, to ensure people don't lose out on screening uptake. I mean, there was research that showed that people from the Muslim communities, the screening uptake is decreasing, although the cancer incidence rates are increasing. And sometimes it comes down to lack of education, ignorance, not aware of actually what services are available to them or what they can ask for in those circumstances. And our role is to educate not just the Muslim community, but also mainstream organisations, be it the NHS or cancer charities, about our specific needs as well.
Yes, absolutely. And you said you have affiliations and partnerships with different charities. So when you say that you work alongside the hospitals and hospices, so do they reach out to you and say, we have a Muslim cancer patient that probably could do with your support? Or do you wait for people to come onto your services, contact on your contact page? How does that work?
We're really proactive in that sense. For example, we've put together a database of all the hospices in the UK, and we've written to them and told them about our services, and then they've started engaging with us. And we've done the same with all the cancer hospitals in the UK. We've wrote to them and we've told them about our services. We've provided them leaflets so they can use those in the hospitals there as well. And that's what we started doing. But the coin has flipped in a way as more and more organisations have found out about us. They've been engaging with us. They've been coming to us, wanting to know more and wanting us to work with them to get the awareness. So that the impact has been extremely positive, and they are really keen to work with us, and they're reaching out to us even more. So.
And I guess, being a founder from the very beginning, one of the founders, it's an amazing flip to see where the intention was to start there as a support network for those patients that are going through cancer, and now actually you've got companies that are reaching out to you saying that would you do educational workshops around cancer and educate people the importance of being seen early. So how does that feel?
Alhamdulillah is such a blessing. And sometimes when we sit back and reflect on our journey in 2 years, we feel like we've come so far. And that's, through the blessings of Allah and everyone else's du'as. For example, recently we've been invited to the House of Parliament to talk about the impact of cancer within the Muslim communities. We were invited by King Charles to the Buckingham Palace, again, where we talked to him about Safeena Muslim Cancer Support Network, and he was extremely receptive and really keen to hear about our organisation. And it's really rewarding to see that journey, but also at the same time, for example, when we hear about stories, for example, one of our clients mentioned to us that her father didn't come to see her for 9 months because he was scared that he might catch the cancer off her, which clearly is nonsensical. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work like that. But things like that then remind us, although we've come this far, there's so much more that we need to do going forward for the Muslim community, inshallah.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's amazing. In terms of, you've been running for nearly 2.5 years. So can you share some of? I know we've got patient confidentiality, but just looking at some of the success stories, or just some of the stories that you look back at. I mean, you briefly just touched on one about the young lady whose father wouldn't see her. But do you have any that you could share with us?
Yeah, sure, of course. So sorry, before I do that, I just wanted to mention something else on the community education awareness. We have a separate stream of work, which is called the Education and Awareness, which involves going out to the community, doing various events, working with imams, mosques, community centre, faith organisations to educate them about the signs and symptoms of cancer, making them aware of cancer. For example, when we did our survey, we found that 80% of Muslims don't even know what the signs and symptoms of the top 5 cancers are. And we hope that through that work that my colleague is doing, we hope to change the narrative of that. And we ran a very successful pilot in Bradford, which we are now rolling out nationwide. We've brought it down to Watford, Buckinghamshire, and inshallah we'll start starting work on that in East London as well. In terms of the impact, there's one story that really stands out for me, and it also involves the Date Project in. It was a sister who was diagnosed with cancer, and she had gone through so much in her life, subhanallah, and she was really struggling with the diagnosis, and she just felt that her family just didn't understand. She didn't have the support, and she didn't know who to turn to, and she kept saying, Ya Allah, please help me in any way. I don't think I can do this this journey. I can't go through this on my own. And then one day during Ramadan, her brother gifted her a box of dates, and she opened it, and it was our leaflet in it. And she said she looked at that leaflet and she broke down crying. And she said that she felt like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had listened to her du'as and sent her this network, and she felt that it just came to her, and she contacted us and we provided her the befriending support service. And I remember one thing she said that she had gone to mainstream cancer charities and they had let her down, and that when she spoke to her befriender, she felt like she could finally breathe again.
Wow.
And
Wow.
this sister sadly passed away because of her cancer diagnosis. But that story really resonates. It stays with me. And the words, that I could finally breathe again. It carried so much. And so sometimes, when we as trustees, non-executive directors or volunteers, when we're doing this alongside all our other commitments, and when we hear things like that, honestly, all the time, effort, everything that we put into Safeena for things like that, it makes it all worthwhile.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a very strong emotional story, and and I guess with each patient and with each journey, you're just becoming more stronger, and in the hope that your charity is providing some form of hope, which was the other question I wanted to ask, that how do you support your carers, the carers especially, of when it comes to, they need to have an outlet, they need to have an offload, because they're the ones that are seeing their loved ones struggling. So as much as the focus always is on the person that's suffering with the cancer, we forget about the person that's probably there 24/7 supporting them. So how do you support them emotionally and spiritually? Because sometimes when you see a moment where they're struggling really badly, it just takes you, that carer, 10 steps back, thinking, this is really difficult. This is, as you say, is it a punishment? Is it, what is it? How can we do it? And they almost feel helpless. So how do you uplift them in that way?
Yeah, and it's so important to us at Savina that carers are not forgotten. And in fact, this network was set up because of a son who was a carer to his mother. And the reality is, in the UK, there's over 5.7 million carers. So it's really important that their needs are not overlooked. And sadly, I have also been in that position, in the sense that my dad was diagnosed with cancer 30 years ago. And I remember saying this to somebody, that going through cancer diagnosis for me was easier than watching my loved one going through it and feeling helpless and feeling that you can't do anything. So it's really important that people who are caring are not overlooked in this journey, because they are also going through it as well. And we cater for our carers by having a befriending support service that is led by carers who've been through that journey themselves, and they provide that same support and journey support, guidance, and advice to our befrienders. And this service is free. It's provided by our befrienders who've got training in this and lived experience. And it can continue for as long as they like, 9 months, 10 months, however long the support is needed for. We also do a number of events that our carers can attend, and those are done online. So that people don't have to physically come into these events, and it's at a time in the evenings where they can hopefully fit that into their evening, into their days. And it's also on our YouTube channels as well, so that that's there if they're not able to access it. And we've recently set up Safeena Chai mornings. We did this in Northwood, Leeds, Bradford, Batley. And the feedback from those have been really, really useful. And it's a great opportunity for people, for example, carers, to meet other carers. And like I said earlier on, to be able to speak to somebody who just gets it because they are going through it or they have been through it, it really cuts differently. And I know from my own cancer journey that, being able to speak to those people can make a massive difference. It doesn't take the issues away. The journey is still there. The cancer diagnosis is still there. The caring responsibilities are still there. But just being able to speak to somebody who gets it can be so powerful, people, and that's something that we're so passionate about at Safeena's.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the emphasis around the Muslim support charity, I mean, there are cancer support charities out there, but having the emphasis on the fact that it's based around our faith and our beliefs, it takes away a lot of explanation. So when you go to these coffee mornings that are run by other charities, you would see non-Muslims or Muslims sitting there, but there would be a light barrier because obviously we're coming from a very different perspective, having our religious values. As you mentioned, the sister earlier, who was very grounded and knew that whatever came her way was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is our belief. But she was seen as somebody that needed to have medical support for her mental well-being because she was in denial. So having that Muslim support, going there and talking to other like-minded Muslims, it takes that away. That it takes that edge away of, yes, this is our faith and we are believing this, and it gives a whole different edge to it. So I think having those chai mornings would be fantastic to roll out nationwide, and having that Muslim community get together where they can talk about it from a faith perspective would definitely support lots of people out there. I had a question around volunteers. So I know that there's opportunities. You've said that you've got around 80, 90 volunteers nationwide. How, if anybody was interested in wanting to join in and support your charity, how do they reach you?
So we've got two main types of volunteers. One is the community cancer awareness champions, and the other is a befriending support service. And for the latter, you need to have lived experience of cancer. For the other one, you don't. You just need to be passionate about raising the awareness of cancer. And those are the two main types of volunteers. But of course, there's lots of other ways that you can volunteer. You can get involved in events. You can get involved in raising awareness of Safeena, fundraising, and so forth. And if you're interested in doing any of those, please do get in touch with us by emailing us on hello@safeena.org.uk.
Okay.
And in terms of training, we provide comprehensive training to all our volunteers, which is specific to the role, but also generic training, for example, on GDPR and safeguarding as well.
Okay, brilliant. I was just going to ask that question. What kind of training occurs? So that's brilliant. And would this be one-to-one or face-to-face training, or is it online that you would offer it?
Yeah, it's a mixture of all three, to be honest with you. Because we are a nationwide service, a lot of our training will be done through online platforms, although we are looking at our training package that we provide, and we are continuously trying to improve on it. But the training is just, although the training is one-off, consisting of various modules, the support is always there. So we're constantly looking at how we can improve the training, upskill our volunteers, and we're continuing to add to that. And the support is always there through our trustees and our non-executive directors and our lead volunteers being constantly available to our volunteers to answer any questions and guide them and support them through the process, so that they don't at any point feel alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's brilliant, because I guess the question I want to ask yourself is, it's cancer is terrible. It's awful. You'll see patients that survive it. You'll see patients that lose their life through it. And it can be very invasive. It could start small and then really just get very, obviously spread very rapidly. When you talk to the patients, when you talk to the family members, there's a lot of emotion going around this. What's your, as a support member of the charity, what's your outlet? Where do you go to, wow, that was a very overwhelming moment with that family or that patient, and it's very hard. I mean, I'm very emotional. Lots of stories that you've told me here today, I've had to sort of turn away and wipe a tear because it's, I can see myself. Anyone in pain, I can't see it. So, what's your outlet? How do you do it? What's keeping your strength?
I think it's the people hearing about what people are going through and being in a position that you're able to do something. Honestly, is such a big blessing to be able to have utilized our experiences and do something positive that will impact our community. And just speaking to our clients and speaking to them from the beginning, and then by the time you finish speaking to them, knowing that you've left them in a different place, it's so rewarding. And in terms of our outlet, we're really fortunate that the way the Safeena has been set up by Safraz, our chair, we're very close network. It's almost like being part. I almost feel like I'm part of the Safeena family. And whenever there's any concerns, and we are human, things happen. For example, if one of our clients' patients passes away or something happens and we're not sure, we feed off each other. We're constantly going to each other and saying, this has happened, what do you think? Or this has happened, I'm really sad about it. And we also have our scholars as well that we often turn to, and they give us the Islamic aspect. And I think I mentioned the Book of Hope that Dr. Atha wrote for us. It's on our website. It's available for people if they want a copy. I lost my brother 10 months ago, which was not related to cancer. And although this is a book that I had read so many times, when I read it again, it gave me so much sukoon and sabr, and it hit home very differently. So it's all these things that we can utilize and rely on. Although we provide a service to the community, but we also have to look after our own mental health and well-being as well. And there's only so much we can take, and that's really helps having that collegiate working environment that we have in Safeena.
Absolutely. And I mean, you have to have first and foremost a very strong spiritual mind, to know that what this is it's a test almost. It's not a punishment, but it's um remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we sort of deviate in our busy world that we live in. We deviate from our actual purpose, so it's just resetting your mind back to our purpose. And sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will rein us in different ways to say, remember your focus. And I guess this is it. How do you balance, you know with the non-Muslims and the Muslims? How do you balance this cultural belief that we, because a lot of our belief is spiritual, and so to try and make a non-Muslim understand it, it's sometimes beyond comprehension. So how do you make that bit clear, especially when it comes to medical intervention? A lot of things that they'll say, no, we need to do this, but no, actually, our faith is very different, and we have to just go along with it accordingly. So how do you balance that? How do you support the patient, and then make sure that you're not stepping on toes with the medical staff, and still instilling that spiritual faith?
Yeah, I mean, I say to people that being diagnosed with cancer was a blessing. And the
Yes.
minute I say that, people don't understand. If they're not from the same faith, they do not understand what I'm saying. And I'm like, how can you even say that? But so much good has flown from this diagnosis of mine. So how we tend to deal with that is, and sometimes it's not just non-Muslims. Muslims also struggle with it. Why me? Why is Allah doing this to me? And we often rely on our scholars to go back to get all the answers. But a lot of it is in our prophetic teachings. What did the prophets go through? How did they deal with it?
Yeah.
And we convey that to our clients and our patients, and to others, and we try to educate others in the mainstream organizations as well, so they can also use those teachings, that when they are dealing with Muslim clientele, Muslim patients, that they can convey that message. But when they say those messages, they can convey those with authority, because it has the backing of Islamic teaching, the prophetic experiences and teachings as well. And that kind of hits differently differently from just saying Islam says it. But, you know, if you tie that in with, for example, the stories of the prophets, the difficulties they struggled with, or the illnesses that they went through, somehow that hits differently, and you are able to convey that message, and it's so much more impactful, whether you're explaining it to a Muslim or a non-Muslim.
Yeah, that's lovely. So I'm conscious of time, and I wanted to ask a couple of questions before we come towards the end of the show. But donations, if anybody wanted to make any donations, we've got about 60 seconds left of the show. So if you have a website, anything that anyone could just donate to support the charity, how do they go about doing that?
They can just go on our website, which is www.safeena.org.uk. As I mentioned earlier, every one of us involved in Safeena is not paid. We're doing this on a voluntary capacity, so everything that's donated is used to provide services to Muslims impacted by cancer, inshallah.
Inshallah. Zahida, it's been so lovely speaking with you this morning. Thank you so much for your time. I have no doubt that listeners have benefited from today's show, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to tell us a bit more about this. So listeners, anything that has been mentioned in terms of contact numbers, websites, please keep an eye out on the Inspire FM Facebook page. Everything will be posted on there. But Salam Alaikum and Jummah Mubarak.